And I'm the counselor at the middle school along with Carlene Holm. This will be my 8th year as a counselor there. My undergrad degree was Human Development Family Studies here from SDSU, so I actually had a few classes in this room, and that was a few years back. And then when I got my degree in Human Development Family Studies, wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, so I entered the master's program here on campus in the school counseling track, and was able to internship at the middle school, and was able to find a job there right away. The middle school, we've always had 2 counselors since I've started, a male and a female. And Carlene and I will talk quite a bit about how well that works, having both perspectives, being able to serve our population of 600. I know probably a majority of you are going to have mentees that are elementary age, but we do have a number of you who are middle school age. And some of my focus, my expertise in getting into the world of a child is more of that older age, but a lot of the things will work for the younger students. But one of the things that Joel wanted me to talk about was how to empower your mentee. Because, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to be here last night to see what Tamara talked about, but we're going to talk a lot about relationships and how to build those. And when you start the relationship, and we'll probably get some comments from returning mentors, but building that relationship and getting to know a child who's brand new to you can be very intimidating, both for you and for the child. And what we want to do is find a way to make that transition a smooth one. And somewhere, I think it was probably on the green sheet in here, where explaining the role of a mentor-mentee in that relationship is quite often these kids are looking at always, there's someone above them. They're here, and all the adults are here, have more power, more everything than they have. And what you want to do is balance that power. A mentor-mentee relationship should be on fairly equal ground. Okay, you should have, some control over what happens, but you want to give them a lot of choices so they feel like they have control also. And quite often, the children that we are identifying that need mentors are the ones that have low self-esteem, maybe some poor social skills, and so they're feeling kind of intimidated in social settings anyway. If I'm speaking correctly there, I think that's how we identify a lot of them. And so helping them get into the relationship and becoming part of it very quickly is what we hope the goal of the first few times is. One of the things that I always do when I start working with a child at the middle school is I want to find their area of expertise. I believe that every child has an area of expertise where they know a whole lot more about that topic than I do. Okay? A lot of times I'll ask the teachers or the parents, if I have a chance to visit with the parents, what that is. Maybe it's NASCAR. I can start talking about that. I know a little bit, but I know they're going to be able to tell me a whole lot of information, and I can find a way to appear very interested. And a lot of times I do like learning about something that I don't completely understand. The other thing, that if you can't find that area of expertise that they have, one area that always works is their family. Okay? And quite often we want to know what their family system is like, and that's what I heard that Tamara spoke about last night, was when you enter the mentor-mentee relationship, you aren't just working with that child, you are entering that family system. And you probably have very little knowledge of that family system, so you want to get in there and learn as much as you can about it. And like I said, the child has a whole lot of knowledge about that. And so quite often that's what I do first with the child, is to find out a whole lot about their family so I can always refer back to it. And one of the ways I like to do that, and I have sheets where I keep notes, is doing a family tree real quick. And some of you have probably seen this, but I'll do a real quick one here on the board. You can kind of use whatever system you want, but usually I always start with who their biological mother and father are and the children in that from those two. Okay? Males we use squares for. Don't ask me why. But females we use circles, use connecting lines. A lot of times you have the children underneath, and this may be a pretty normal, simple family. You have the father, the mother, a son, a daughter, and a son. And you may be working with this middle child. So right now you can already start making assumptions and understanding this girl's world and what's around her just by knowing who's in her family. Okay? The other reason I do it is because we work with a lot of children, and I need to remember names. And that's one thing I'm very poor at. But I'll show you how complicated this gets when there's divorce involved. And all of a sudden, you may only be meeting with them once a week or every other week, and every time you get going, they start talking about all these people, and you forget who's who and who's connected to who. But I've seen families where there's a divorce, the children stay with the mother, the father remarries, they have maybe a couple children, the mother remarries and has a couple children with another person, but maybe this father had a previous wife and they have a child. Okay? All of a sudden, you have brothers and sisters. You have half brothers and sisters, and then you have stepsister for this girl. This ends up being a lot of children, but these are some of the families that Carlene and I work with, and you might experience one like this. So doing a quick family tree is a nice way to kind of get a look at their world, who's in it, maybe how complicated it is. And for some of you, if these children are going back and forth between two households, because we have some of those where one weekend they're with one and one weekend they're with another. Okay? You're going to have to be able to have all those contacts and know where they're at and who to call to get a hold of them. So that's one thing I make sure I get on the children that I work with right away, so I can kind of understand that. The other thing that I do, and this is more for the females that I work with, but they'll come in and they'll say that I'm having a problem with my friends. Janie's doing this to Jenny, and Sally and Susie aren't talking to any of us, and Sammy and Carol and another Sally, they're all watching and they're telling rumors. And then they start talking about them. And I'm like, who's who? So what I do is I do a friendship web. And
what he really does is he refers it.
Most of the time. But when she's not there, we'll use Carlene in the middle. All right? But what I find out, and this is kind of a visual map for me to keep track of who's who. But a lot of times I'll put them in the middle of their friendship group. They may have a few really close friends. The stronger the bond, the more lines I put in. So quite often, one is just a normal friendship, 2 is a stronger friendship, 3 would be best friends. Okay. Sally and Jenny, probably friends also, but maybe they're not best friends like Carlene is to these two. Okay. What we'll find out though is that Jenny has a friend over here that she's really strong friends with, but what we have here is kind of more like an enemy. So I draw a jagged line for that friendship. The stronger the anxiety or the anti-friendship, you can add 2 or 3 lines. If it's very strong, they're arguing almost every day. Okay. That's something I do with a lot of the females I work with, just so I can understand and get a picture of their world. All right, and that'll help you so that way when they come back 3 weeks later and they start talking about their friends they're having problems with, you'll at least have heard the names, maybe kind of know how they're connected. You won't probably always carry the sheet of paper with that you put this on, but these two things can fit on a sheet of paper, and before you go hang out with your mentee for the evening, go back and look through that real quick. Okay, so that way you kind of review who's in their family, who's in their friendship group. So those are two things I do quite often with everyone who comes in. I know that Tamara visited with you guys quite a bit last night about good questions. And I'm going to kind of review that real quick, but then also talk about a lot of other listening skills that help make sure that the mentee is feeling heard, feeling understood, a way to really get you into their world so that they feel connected. Last year, I kind of called this the Mentor's Communication Toolbox. Okay, but quite often what you're going to do when you spend your time with your mentee is going to be two different types of things. One of them is going to be talking, and the other is going to be playing. Okay, you'd be playing something, or you'd be going to a game, watch, going bowling, something like that, playing video games. We're going to talk more about that later. I'm going to focus more on the questions and the talking portion, but she talked quite a bit about open-ended questions last night. Is that correct? Basically, instead of, what's your family like? They can answer that, with one word. Nice, cool, boring. Okay, you need to find ways to start the sentence out like, tell me about your family. Okay, there they have to provide a little bit more information. You're going to get a little bit more out of them. Clarifying questions, those can be shorter. Maybe you didn't catch the name of a friend. What was the name of that friend? Okay, making sure that you're getting that information. When you're asking questions, then they know you're listening and you care about what they were just saying. That's what all the stuff is going to be about. Or the investigative questions. Asking them, like I said, about the family or about the friends. Really getting into, what is that relationship like between you and Sally? Explain that to me. They could explain why it doesn't work so well. Maybe why that other person is annoying. But other things that you can do for the communication is you can make challenging statements. What you'll find is some of these kids are really good storytellers. All right? All of a sudden, the longer you're with them, you start finding out that the story from last week doesn't match up with the story from this week. And you start realizing, okay, they exaggerate a lot. Okay? That's a social skill that's going to turn people off in the future. So if you can help fix that for them, challenge them on that. Say, this story doesn't make sense with what you told me last week. And that way they have to explain themselves and figure out that they can't just be lying to people. Be one social skill that you can fix. And kind of just straight out confront them on things. Just straight out say, sounds like you're lying to me. Is that what's going on here? Sometimes that can work fairly well. And it's not like you're trying to discipline them or make them feel bad. If you just say it assertively, they may respond yes or no. But at least they know that you're kind of picking up on that you are listening. Because sometimes kids will test you to see if you're listening.